Hello, everyone. My name is Esther Frogel. I'm a psychologist in the Houston area. Um, I wanted to just take a minute right now and talk about what's been going on with the COVID-19 situation. From a psychological standpoint, there's a lot of different areas that are being affected right now. Many people are experiencing anxiety. Some people are really concerned about finances and what will be, and especially the health situation. One area that I think is greatly affected and can actually benefit from some guidance, some very just simple guidance, is how to kind of manage relationships during this time. You know, you're stuck at home, you have your kids, you have your partner, whether it's a spouse or a parent or whoever it might be that you're spending a lot of time with. And here is sort of a couple, 10 tips on how to manage relationships during this time that I think are pretty simple and might be helpful. So I'm just going to show you the list right here. Okay. So 10 tips to manage relationships during COVID-19. So tip one, give your spouse some space. This seems simple, but at least once a day, take a breath of air, separate from one another, allow each other to just have an alone time from one another. Now, it's complicated depending on where you are. I'm here in Texas. Thank God we have a lot of space. People are able to go outside. There may be even multiple rooms in your home where you can kind of have some time to yourself. I think it's really critical that you allow for that in order to sort of, when you come back to each other, you're sort of refreshed and you have a moment together to just reconnect. I have some friends in the New York area and they've got a 2-bedroom with a whole bunch of kids and there's not really a place to go and they're not really supposed to go outside. A great way to really have alone time is put headphones on. I know it's simple, but just put your headphones on, listen to something that kind of can calm you and you sort of emotionally separate just for, even if it's 5 minutes, just having that time to yourself. Now, one thing that's really important is, especially when there's kids and there's a lot of responsibilities, parents sometimes there's some resentment that builds when one person takes a break and you're kind of floundering and having a really hard time. I think it's critical that you allow each other to do that. If you let the other person take even just a couple minutes alone to themselves, just know that when you do that, you're giving them a chance to recharge and then they'll be able to do it for you. And it doesn't mean that they're trying to get away from you or they're angry or something like that. It's just that they just need that space. And if you start building a kind of a resentment about that, like, oh, I noticed that you were taking a really long walk this morning. I was kind of stuck at home with the kids. It's important to express that you're having a hard time and need help, but also being aware that, it's okay for people to take a break and you don't want to start building tension around that area. Okay, step number 2, only make short-term plans. This situation is changing every day. It's overwhelming. We don't know what's happening. And in reality, making any big plans and big conversations, that could be very stressful. People don't really know how to handle what's going on. You can't make plans really past this week or next week, really day to day. So really taking some time, one day at a time approach in terms of planning. It also limits it so that you're not spending a lot of time talking about the situation and with the little time that you have, especially with kids around, being able to really just focus on step by step. You can maybe set a time during the day where you can sit down and brainstorm plans together, like the kids' schooling, work schedules, are there any medical needs, are there groceries that you need, just the basics, and not really getting into intense long-term, like what will be with the economy, we'll be able to afford X, Y, and Z, will our kids be going to camp this summer, is so-and-so's wedding happening, these big pictures. Yes, it's important to consider them, but they can add a lot of stress to a relationship if we're making big plans. So really stick to short-term plans and reassess the situation daily. Another thing that I think is really important is to implement a daily emotional check-in. So that basically means asking your spouse once a day, you can designate this time, ask them, how are they feeling emotionally with this situation? Doesn't need to be long. If you need to, you can even set timers for each other so that you don't go too long into it and don't get too pulled into it, but just emotional check-in. And during that time, your job is to 100% listen and validate how they're feeling. even if you don't necessarily have the same fears or anxieties, your worries might be different, but just being able to just listen to them. And then if you do that for them, they're probably going to do it for you. And so if you guys put that together and you really make a point of having these daily emotional check-ins, you'll have a really good way of connecting to each other and also really listening. Okay, number 4, agree to disagree. A lot of controversy in this situation. Whose fault is this? What is social distancing? How are we supposed to social distance? Can I go for a walk? Can I not go for a walk? Can I borrow some milk from a neighbor? Can I do it? Can I drop off food for someone? There's so many different opinions about this. And oftentimes a big thing that I've been hearing is that spouses might not agree on how to socially distance or how to manage this situation. In reality, no one really knows fully what the right thing to do is. We're taking recommendations from the CDC. We're trying to listen to leaders, but you might have a difference of opinion. And so it's really important that you allow yourself to agree to disagree. You don't have to get caught up in an argument about this situation. There's enough to argue about and a lot of stress going on at home and also a lot of wonderful experiences and opportunities. So really stepping away from having to be right about everything right now, agree to disagree, and be able to hear each other out and be flexible to allow the other person to express their needs and be humble enough to know that nobody knows anything. So the next one is number 5, and this is a big one: no corona talk in the bedroom. This is like my number one, and my husband was the one that implemented this because we were noticing that it was getting stressful talking about death and all the people that are affected and what this might mean and the kind of those things. And we sort of decided early on, we can't bring this up in the bedroom because this is kind of our place. This is where we unwind. And it's important to keep that place stress-free. So please, if there's one of these things you do, try your best to keep it out of the bedroom. Now, again, I will put a caveat. I live in Texas. I have a lot of space. If you're stuck in a small space and the only place you have to have any privacy is your bedroom, then I would say designate a lot of time that you could talk in the bedroom that's limited. So whether it be like 7 to 8 p.m., we will talk about it, fine, but then it stops because that place really does need to be a kind of a place of calm and stress-free environment. Okay. Number 6, go back to old comforts. Remember 4 weeks ago, before all this was going on, you guys had your relationship. There were things that you did to connect, whether it be go for a walk, whether it was sit down and, listen to some music together, maybe watch a show or, eat a meal, cook together, whatever it might be your thing is, paint, who knows, play guitar, whatever it is your thing is. Don't forget about those things. You could still do some of them. Go back to your old comforts, the things that were like games, a game of cards, joking around, the things that you do together. Go back to that. The ones that have no relation to this situation. And I'm not just talking about the funny memes that are coming out. Those are great. Those are funny. But also the things that are relevant to your relationship that have nothing to do with this. Those things can break the ice, take away the tension, and take you back to how you were. Number 7 is kind of related to the first one, but this is give each other a break. Now, there's a lot going on. This is especially to parents. We have so much to do. We're homeschooling. We're trying to work from home. We're trying to manage preparing our meals for our kids and keeping the house clean and doing everything we can. And at the same time, we have breaking points. Everyone has a breaking point during the day. Everybody gets tired. Make it a point to notice when your spouse is getting worn out and step in and just say, hey, can I help you out here? Or how about I take over for a couple minutes now? And chances are if you do that for them, they'll do it for you. And make a point of doing it in a way that is helpful and not disruptive to the situation. So being aware of the dynamic and knowing whether or not it's a good time to jump in. But give each other a break. We all need it. And it will feel so validating to your partner to know that you're supporting each other during this time. Okay, number 8, speak your partner's language. So I'm going to actually share another screen here, but this is what I'm talking about is there's a book called The 5 Love Languages that many people have heard of by Gary Chapman. And he talks about how every person has a different way of expressing love. And we may not all speak the same language. This is important to know in general. And if you know your partner's love language, great, go and try to fulfill that. If you don't, I'm going to quickly explain the 5 love languages very quickly. And from there, you can kind of get a sense of what your partners might be, or you can even ask them after you hear about it from me here. Okay, so first one I'm going to talk about here is what's known as acts of service. I don't know if you could see that. Let me see. Okay, I think this is the screen. Okay, acts of service. Acts of service is the concept of doing things for other people. That might be, you know, oh, okay, you know that they really hate to cook a meal, so you can go and make a meal for them or clean up an area of the house that stresses them out. Or if you see your spouse is really struggling with getting through the loads of laundry, doing a load of the laundry for them. And that might just be the thing that makes them feel so good and feels so loved that you do something for them that helps them. For some people, that might not be it. It's like, I can handle all these things. What I really want might be, and I'm going to share a new screen, physical touch. I just want a hug. You know, I just want, like, you know, a pat on the shoulder or something, holding a hand, anything to just, you know, say, hey, I'm thinking of you. That might be your thing. And for another person, totally not. Physical touch is probably the last thing they need. They don't really need a hug. They'd rather you do something for them, an act of service. The next one I'm going to share is, and I hope that one showed up, receiving gifts. Receiving gifts. This one is simple. Some people are gift people. Now, this doesn't mean, you know, fancy, expensive jewelry or, you know, a car. It could be a chocolate bar. It could be, you know, oh, I saw this card and I thought of you, or I picked this flower for you, or whatever it might be. Right now, shopping is not so easy, but there's a lot of different ways that you can give gifts. You can even make something, you know, like if you do make like a special meal of some sort, that could be even considered a gift. But being aware that this really fills a person's bucket, even though for you it might be the last thing you want. Like, I don't want a gift right now. I'd rather you give me a hug, or you do something for me that really shows me that you love me. Okay, so that's the first 3: physical touch, acts of service. This one is called words of affirmation. Now, this one is where basically you express to the person in words how much you appreciate them. You know, I really love you because you really helped me with this, or I really love how you always listen to me, or just kind of complimenting them, making them feel good, and affirm that they're meaningful to you. That can do so much for a person. And if that's their love language, then you don't even need to bother with anything else. This could just be the thing that they really need. Now, we may have a number of these love languages. You don't have to have just one, but it's just really interesting to see what each person's is. And I really think if you talk about this with your partner, you'll learn a lot about each other. Okay, the last one that I'm going to share right now is quality time. Quality time, very simple, spending time together. Now, luckily, we have a lot of that right now. So most of you have a lot of that going on, but just be aware of the time that you're spending together. It may not be so quality. So like I said, this goes back to the earlier tip. You can do things that are meaningful, that connect to your old fun ways of doing things, as opposed to just like, hey, what are we doing? How are we, having meetings about the situation, and kind of spending time together, but not very enjoyable time. So if this is your partner's thing, or if it's your thing, express it to each other. Express to each other what your love languages are, and then you'll be able to really connect each other on that level. Okay, moving back to the list. Okay, and we're almost done here. Seek help when needed. So this is where I like to kind of point out that sometimes relationships are hard. You may have had problems already going into this. and you may not necessarily know how to manage such a situation. There are friends, there are religious leaders, there are family members, and there are therapists that can help you. You don't need to do this alone. A lot of people are available virtually nowadays. Happy to share my information also, but it's just really important to kind of take a minute to think about how you can really reach other people for help. And lastly, do what works for you. This is really simple. You know each other best. You probably have been through hard times before. If you have, what did you do then? Don't forget those times. Go back to that. Try that out again. Try to see what you did to manage your life back then. So, and then that way you'll be able to kind of use those tools and trust yourself that you have a handle on your marriage and you know how to manage what's going on. These are my 10 tips. I hope it's helpful. I'm going to just share quickly my information here. If I could find it. There you go. Okay. This one. Okay, so this is my flyer for the COVID-19 situation right now, and that basically I'm offering phone and video sessions. My phone number here, 917-526-0319, or you could email me, estherfrogelphd@gmail.com. Wishing everyone a lot of luck during this situation, and that we're all in this together, alone together in our own way. And if you can kind of reconnect with your partner, this could become a more meaningful experience than you expected. Have a good night.